Alright, here's a my second video on this old Teac A-4010S open reel tape player, tape recorder. I got this free a few years ago and did some work on it, got it running, and I've been using it, for the most part for a couple of years successfully. There's an early restoration video that I can link to, and you can see what I did just to get it all freed up, replace the belt, stuff like that. But it's always had kind of a couple problems that I never really fixed the first time around. Number one was it had an intermittent noise problem on the right side on playback. So what I did for that, well, let me go through both problems. So it had an issue with the noise, and then also when you would do the forward and reversed worked in the stop, but when you do a fast movement, either forward or reverse, you would have to hold this down and then with your other finger hit stop, because I believe this is supposed to latch in. When you hit fast, it's supposed to latch and run fast until you hit stop. But this wasn't, that part wasn't working. When you hit fast, and if you let up, it would instantly re-engage, the roller, and the reels would be running real fast, and it would just snap the tape. So I learned from trial and error that I couldn't do that. So I just been, whenever I had to move tape fast, I just had to be careful not to just to hold that down until I hit stop. So that's not the way it's supposed to work, but I've been dealing, or just getting along by doing that. So what I found now is here's the this is the little amplifier. It normally sits right here, and it takes the signal off the heads and amplifies it up to a certain level. I assume kind of line level, so that you can hear the recordings. But with the noise, I went and I replaced all the transistors because I thought that might be it, and replaced all the capacitors except for these couple little goofy ones here and here. And that did not fix the problem, or it kind of made it go away, but it was still intermittent. Now what I found, eventually the noise became not intermittent and more solid. So I was able to start poking around in here, and it got worse when it was hot and better when it was cold. So I used a combination of freeze spray and a heater to kind of isolate it down, and eventually I found out that little resistor right there, my finger's pointing to, and I put a little black mark on top of it. When I wiggle that, it would make, you could hear the noise pretty loud. So, and also the same thing, I would freeze that one resistor to quiet and then heat it back up, and it would make the noise loud again. And that's on the right side. So what I decided to do is go ahead and replace that resistor. What is that, a 560K or something like that, or 560 ohm. I didn't have them, so I had to order them. And so I'm going to replace the one on the right side, and then there's one over here somewhere too that's the equivalent for the left side. So I'll replace both of those. And that is, let's see if I can find that in the schematic. That's right there. So it's on the emitter of the last little driver transistor that goes into both sides, the right and the left. So that could cause a noise, I guess. So that was problem number one. When the resistors get in here, when I receive them, I'll go ahead and see if that fixes the problem. Problem number two. This fast rewind relay that's, I feel, is supposed to latch in. What I think happens is there's a little diode right here called D3. And I think that supplies a certain amount of current when you hit the fast button. I think it latches in, you know, that fast wind relay until you hit the stop button over here, which removes the current through the relay and drops that relay down again. So it took me a while to find that diode. So I poked around here in the circuit and found, I'm never going to see it here without some additional light. That's it right there, right behind that capacitor. And that little black thing right there. I checked that and that diode is just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But you may not be able to see here, I'm not sure. But I can tell you that only one side of that diode is hooked up. There's no wires going to the second side. So, and all that wiring looks factory. It doesn't look like anyone's been in there. So if that truly does, this little diode does the latching on that relay, the fast wind relay, and it was wired incorrectly from the factory, then it's always been that way. Since 1967 this thing has not worked properly. And I assume the previous owner just did the same thing I did. Whenever he had to fast forward or fast rewind, just made sure he hit the stop button before releasing the fast button. So I think I'm going to go ahead and dig in there and see if I can switch those wires around and make this thing work. That's my next step. Alright, I got my order from Mauser today, and I got these 560 ohm resistors that I need to replace the one bad one. And here it is. That's on the right channel, and the left channel equivalent is right over here somewhere. So I'll replace them both just to keep the gain the same on both sides. And again, that resistor is right there in the emitter circuit of that driver transistor. And here's the final output transistor on both sides. So well, let's do that and see if we can get this thing working without noise. Alright, got those soldered in place. So I'll go ahead and install the board again and see if it got rid of the noise. Both the old ones still measured good, but I think at least one of them was temperature sensitive and it was breaking down under high temp, so I think that was causing the noise. Let's find out. Alright, the board's back installed with its new resistors. And it's turned on. If I turn the volume up, see I'm getting some buzz. Right, left, right. So a little bit of noise, but under very high volume. Turn this way down. And then
well, there's this friend that I got, thought he always had me back, but recently he be proving me wrong. How many times he tried to say that today he's gonna change, but still yet he sing the same old song. He's gonna live a God's life in a white car.
so it's sounding good. No extra noise coming out of the preamplifier coming from the heads into the upper system here. I still have the bottom amp disconnected, but this is where the noise is coming from. So looks like that problem's solved. Now I got to work on why the fast forward relay isn't getting locked or clamped in. That's the next step. Alright, it looks like I've come to standstill on this mechanism here, which is supposed to lock in the fast forward. When you hit fast forward, it's supposed to latch it in until you hit stop. That is not working. Never has. And it looked like it was wired improperly. So even when I wired it properly, it still wasn't working. And now I've noticed that if I measure straight across the coil of that solenoid, or that relay, it's a solenoid, you can see it's 13 megohms, so that's definitely open. And that, I believe, is this one right here. I'm reading right across, that spot, so I should see, some small amount of resistance for that coil, not megohms. So that guy's open, which is why it's not being latched in properly. So I'm probably not going to be able to find that little latch-in relay anywhere. So I'm just going to deal with having to. The way I do that is I just, when I hit fast forward, I just hit stop before I lift my finger off of it. As long as I remember to do that, it works just fine. So I got the amplifier, that amplifies the signal off the heads, fixed, and it was just a couple bad resistors here that I replaced, and that sounds great now. And I'll button this thing up and just use it as is, and it really works just fine for what I need. So thanks very much for watching. That'll be the end of this video on the Teac A-4010S open reel tape player. Bye bye.
So much, and then it's so how does it feel? How does it feel? You got to tell me. You got to tell me. That's a waste of time and tears, and I know. To tell me. You got 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 to tell me. How does it feel?
Working great.
Come on.